Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here on this Memorial Day. We have a great show lineup in honor of Memorial Day, so we're going to get started first with the weather brought to us by Hayden Technical Center. We're looking at good today, 84 high and 74 low. Got a 10-degree water temperature right at even 80.2. We're looking at the Monday moon forecast brought to us by Sandhill Seafood and Restaurant up there on Highway 77, just past Bozeman School. We're looking at a waxing moon. We're right at a quarter moon. We got a full moon coming up in about a week and a half, so we're in good shape there as far as the moon. A tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. Looking at really strong tides right in the middle of the day. Folks, this is excellent right here. 12:04 is the high tide and low tide is 11:20. It's going to be in good shape. Excellent, really high tides coming in this morning, so be aware of that. Let's go and do our fishing game times right now, brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers in Port St. Joe. Looking at 4:14 to 6:14 this morning, and this afternoon 4:43 to 6:43. And of course today, the official start of summer and official start of the boating season, and basically everything's kicking off today. A lot of folks down for the weekend and all, so we're looking for a really good week as far as the weather and all. It looks like the fishing's going to be excellent. Got good tides and all, so the river, I'm going to give you some results later on the brim tournament at Howard's Creek. Got all kinds of things, got some pictures and all we'll get caught up with later on in the next day or two. But right now, let's take our break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, and in honors of Memorial Day and Veterans Day and July 4th, we always like to do a little special show here in Panhandle Outdoors to sort of put the fishing and hunting sort of on the back burner, but we still have a tie-in with outdoors because everybody we talk about had a great relationship with the outdoors, and today will be no different. I'm going to be honoring first of all honor all the men and women who've lost their lives in fighting for the freedom of America and all the wars we've had from way back at the beginning. I'm not going to list all the wars, but we know all of them, and we all know. And we've all had probably family members and close friends who have lost their lives in defense of our freedom and our liberty. Today I'm going to talk about, and I've talked about this before, this is Mr. Ken Tucker. He's from Lynn Haven. Ken Tucker, last roll call. He just passed away at the age of 92 about 2 weeks ago at his special time. He just had his ashes spread. He was born and raised in East Point. And I got to know Ken, and we had a close relationship. He actually went to church. I saw him a lot at church, but before then, we always talked and all. He had a daughter, Wanda. They did this book, and my daughter, Wendy, helped on this book, so I was able to sort of follow the book along, and what a wonderful life story he had. He was a tail gunner, folks. He was a tail gunner and on the B-17, and you're talking about heart. This story right here is amazing that he survived because that's the first one he shot at with his tail gunner. So anyway, what we're going to do in a segment. So I got a little bit of everything. The first is a little 3-minute interview that I did with Wendy, and I hadn't really interviewed my daughter that much, but there's a story that's not in the book. And I want you to listen carefully because this shows the atrocities and the horror of war, and it brings out the evil in men. And we see it today and still today. But in World War II, toward the end of the war, and he had befriended a guy named Halsey, and he went missing and all. And so they finally, through this book, found out how the story on this. And Wendy tells this fascinating story that's not in the book. So I want to start this segment off, or start this program off on this little 3-minute video. Wendy helped do the book and all, so she knew all the stories, and she was fascinated. So and she teaches history, so right up her alley. So Jeff, let's show this little video right here. Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here on this Memorial Day morning. We got a great show lined up. We got some good fishing coming up. But first, I'm here with my daughter, Wendy. And Wendy was on the show a while back with this book and all. She's a publisher. And how many books have you published?
About 8.
About 8 books and all. We talked about this book recently, last roll call, about Ken Tucker from Carabel. So and you told me a story the other day, which is heartwarming. We want to share this story with our viewing audience. So
okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Mr. Tucker lives here in Lynn Haven, and he wrote this book about his experience in World War II. He was a B-17 tail gunner, He was stationed over in Italy, and there's some great stories about the men that he flew with. A B-17 plane had a 10-man crew, and the navigator on his crew, his name was Halsey, and Mr. Tucker was very close to him and thought a lot about him. And he was such a good navigator that other crews would request him when they would come to the area and fly on missions. And one of the missions that Halsey flew with another plane, the plane was shot down. Mr. Tucker heard towards the end of the war that 7 men from that plane had escaped. They had parachuted out safely, but they were taken prisoner of war. So a couple of years later, he had heard from a friend that Halsey had tried to escape from the POW, the prison camp, and that he was shot because of an escape attempt. But Mr. Tucker says he never really believed that. He said Halsey was smarter than that. He wouldn't have tried that. They knew the end of the war was coming. So, unbeknownst to them, Mr. Halsey has family up in Massachusetts. He has an 80-year-old sister, 84-year-old sister who's still alive. He has grandnieces and a grandnephew who they have a memorial for Halsey up in Massachusetts in their small hometown. They've always wondered about their great uncle. They never met him, obviously. So, every once in a while, the grandnephew would get on Google and Google his name. And just about 2 months ago, they Googled Halsey's name, and this book pops up on the internet. And he calls his sisters and he calls his great aunt, and they are so excited. They end up calling Ken Tucker down here in Lynn Haven. He talked to all of them for hours, and he got to tell them what their great uncle was like, and it was so sweet. One thing the family did tell Mr. Tucker that they learned about Halsey is that after the war was over, when President Roosevelt died, the prison camp where Halsey was being held, a prison guard took 2 prisoners out and executed them to celebrate the death of President Roosevelt. And Halsey was one of the 2 men that he killed. And he was tried in a war crimes trial and found guilty. But that's how they found out what really happened to Halsey. And that actually brought some closure to Mr. Tucker. He said that story kind of jives with what Halsey was like. So it's just neat that this book connected these 2 families, and a lot of them found a lot of closure.
And they spent hours on the phone, and they got to finally find out how their great uncle was at that age, as a boy, and all in war, and what a hero he was. So what a great heartwarming story on this, and a great way to get started off Memorial Day. We have a lot to be thankful for here in the Panhandle, and especially in America for our freedom. Wendy, thank you for that story.
Sure.
And folks, stay tuned now. I've got some great fishing coming up. All right, welcome back. Now, that's a fascinating side story. It's a tragic story. It's a bad, evil story. And that family was able to bring closure as to really what did happen and all in that situation. And he was tried in war crimes and all, but that was just an ugly scene. But Mr. Tucker had he sort of felt on the closure. It was important to him to find that out because he did talk to family members. Now, what I did, I sat down and interviewed him. I went over a couple of times. So I have like 41 minutes of interview, and we're just going to show you the beginning of the interview, and just so you can see him talking. This was back about 7 years ago. About 7 years ago, I interviewed him. And I just feel it's important. And this book right here is one of the last memoirs ever written on World War II. There were a lot of them written, but this is one of the last ones, if not the last one written. And like I say, he was a tail gunner, grew up in East Point, Apalachicola, and you'll see. And that's one of the first things you want to ask him, how it was growing up in that area. And he was born in 1925, so you can imagine he was 5 years old in 1930, and the fish and the scallops and all kind of, you can imagine East Point, Apalachicola back in those days. And I wanted to get a picture of that. So really, this interview here is a lot about his growing up years, and then later on, maybe I can show you on July 4th some tail end of stories when he actually got off, and he did some brave things in World War II, as all those guys did in the Greatest Generation. So this is in honor, on Memorial Day, this is in honor of all those men who didn't make it back. And he had, he sometimes looked left, looked right, and knew some of those guys weren't going to make it back from these missions, because a lot of these missions these bombers took they were unescorted. They tried to get escorts with it, but a lot of escorts were shot down. If you know World War II history, there's just so many of them shot down, and it's a fascinating story. So we're going to roll about a few minutes of this interview, then we're going to come back and close it out with a special part. So Jeff, let's run some of this interview right here. Hi folks, I'm here at the home of Ken Tucker. Now a lot of y'all may know Ken Tucker. He wrote this book, Last Roll Call, and this is a true story. Now Mr. Tucker was a B-17 tail gunner in World War II, and originally he grew up in Apalachicola.
Across the bay from that.
Across the bay in Apalachicola. We're going to do a little interview and just get a visit with him. I just want y'all to get to know him. He's a wonderful man, and he got a great story here. And first of all, let's start. You know, growing up in that area. You know, we do an outdoor show, and growing up in that area, you were around a lot of fishing and seafood, wasn't you?
Oh, that's all we had. I grew up I was born and raised during the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And we could always get something to eat out of the bay. We had plenty of oysters and fish and shrimp, things like that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But we traded some of the farmers from up around Alpha and inland, you know. About every 2 or 3 weeks, one of them would come down there on his old Model T and trade us cornmeal and vegetables for fish and oysters. So it worked out real good.
That's amazing. What year were you born?
What year?
Yeah.
1925.
1925. So you got to go right through that Depression era then.
Yeah, I remember some hard times.
Wow, I bet you did. What in the bay? There's a lot of fish out there back then. Was there a lot?
Oh yeah, I remember when my dad was a seafood dealer.
Okay.
And I remember when he paid 2 cents a pound for mullet, it put him on a limit because he could only sell so many. You know, he'd say, "Well, I can only handle 200 or 300 pounds, you know, tomorrow." So they'd go out and catch what he ordered, and that was it. He had a couple of regular truckers. One had a seafood market in Thomasville, Georgia.
Yeah.
He came down every Thursday, and my dad always had saved seafood, you know. And then another guy from Tallahassee, I believe it was. He wasn't as regular as the guy from Thomasville, but you could set your clock by the man from Thomasville.
Yeah.
He kept us alive.
Well, back then, how about the flounder and the redfish and all stuff like that? Was a lot of that out there then?
Lots of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Flounder was not only was a money-making thing, but you know, a lot of people did it for recreation.
Now, what kind of light did y'all use back then?
Well, back then we called it a flounder jack. It was a wire basket. You'd get a metal hook in a basket of wire, and you'd have a long pole out on the front of your boat, and you'd hang that down from that end of that pole.
Yeah.
And build you up a fire in that basket.
Yeah.
And you would go along and
you'd use old lighter knots and stuff like that.
You'd always start it with fat lighter knots and things like that, but you'd put something on there that would last.
Yeah.
And that was a good light. Next morning you'd be smoked up, but it was not only.
About how many? Would y'all get a lot of flounder? You stayed out all night. Y'all get a lot of flounder?
Well, yeah. Well, see, you had to flounder on your tides.
Yeah.
You didn't flounder all night because you had to flounder on a rising tide. When it started falling, they'd start moving offshore. But same with gill netting. I did a lot of gill netting even when I was in school, high school, during the summer, and sometime on weekends. I had some relatives that were in the fishing business, and I would go gill netting with them.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about the tides and certain things. Like this one distant relative of mine was an old guy. he was a weatherman. Anytime anybody was going fishing or wonder what the weather was going to be, Uncle Mac would walk out on the end of my dad's pier, his dock, and look around. He'd scan the horizon, you know. He said, "I think we're going to get an northeaster tonight, or it's going to come out of the southwest or something." But he was just about as accurate as anybody could imagine. But
we all know we're on the East Point side of the bay?
East Point.
East Point. Yeah.
Well, see, where I was born and raised down at East Point, it was not, East Point was not where it is now.
Okay.
East Point was a fishing village down on the end of the point, on the peninsula.
Okay.
The 1929 hurricane, it thinned out the buildings down there, you know, what you...
So you were like 4 years old? Do you remember the hurricane?
I remember.
Wow.
A couple of incidents that happened.
Wow.
But I do remember the hurricane.
Wow.
And it was pretty sad for some people because it just washed everything off the end of the point. But we were up at my grandmother's house, and it was kind of up on a ridge, and it was about a mile from down the point. And we sat there and we could see the houses, things, debris washing down down the marsh. But yeah, that was.
That's a hard time. I guess the seafood and being out on that water bay kept all going and everything.
Oh yeah,
that's a big deal. Well, then you got on through growing up through the 30s and the freshman here, and then went on to school there.
I went to school in Carabel, all 12 years.
In Carabel. Okay, and then we're getting close. The war starts coming. I guess you hear about the war and all from.
Oh yeah, and see, my dad was in World War I. And he we had this battery radio, you know, the first radio in our neighborhood. And he always listened to the news, and I would always listen to it with him because he always told me about World War I. And I just thought I knew that it was my duty when it came my turn when I got old enough.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do it for my dad's sake because I knew that he would have been sadly disappointed if anything happened that I didn't go.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor? Were you listening to?
Yeah, I was playing tennis. Whittier Brown, the school bus driver, he had a place up between the peninsula and where Highway 98 is now.
Yeah.
Up on that bluff, and behind his house he built a tennis court. And we used to go up there on Sundays, and it was Sunday morning, and there was about 6 of us guys up there playing tennis, and my dad came up there to tell me he just heard it on the radio. And from then on, you know, I started playing it.
Yeah.
And but my mom and dad wanted me to finish high school, which I did. I wanted to also. And as soon as I graduated, I went.
You just volunteered for the Army, or?
No, I volunteered. Back then it was the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
And they cut out the enlistments. You had to volunteer through the draft board.
Okay.
So I went over and talked to them, and they thought that was great that I wanted to go. We went to Camp Blandon, and when I got there, I told them exactly what I wanted. I said I wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
And I took all the written exams and physicals and everything. I passed everything, and then I went from there. I went to Keesleville, Mississippi for cadet training.
Okay.
They formed a cadet squadron, and we were supposed to have been 13 weeks, I think, of basic training. And after 7 weeks, they pulled us out and said, "We need you."
All All right, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, a lot more of it. We just do little segments at a time. But what a special interview with a special man who just recently passed away a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted his ashes scattered along the Apalachicola Bay near the old homestead. Their homestead was right there on the bay, on the east point side of the bay, not too far from the bridge. So that is a true Americana story as far as located here in the Florida Panhandle. I just want to share that with you. It's important to me. I know it's important to a lot of y'all too. So we're going to close out the show with Whitney singing the Star Spangled Banner, and it's just a special time. And this was a couple years ago, and I said, honey, we just do one for the show because on occasion I'm going to want to use it on different days and all. So this is Memorial Day, so we're going to close out the show. Thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. You have a good and safe Memorial Day, and do something good for your fellow man, and God bless, and let's close it out now.
Thousands of Americans, including some of my ancestors, have made the ultimate sacrifice of protecting our country and preserving our freedom. For those who are with us and for those who have gone on, thank you very much, and God bless you. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.